Bună seara, bună seara! Sper că mă auziți bine și că totul este în regulă. Văd că ni s-au alăturat profesori din Suceava, din Craiova. Bună seara doamna Grec, bună seara doamna Iordache, bună seara! Așa cum am promis, o să fim punctuali și așteptăm cu drag și alți profesori să ni se alăture pe parcurs. Ne bucurăm să vă avem alături. Imediat îmi găsesc și o prezentare. Așa. Imediat. Așadar, bună seara oficial! Eu sunt Ana Stamatescu și mă bucur să vă urez un mare bun venit la acest webinar live organizat împreună cu partenerii noștri de la Raspberry Pi Foundation. Alături de mine, în chat și regie tehnică, se află colega mea, Gabriela Angel, căreia îi mulțumesc mult pentru ajutor. Înainte de a o invita în scenă pe Sam Duffy, managerul programului Astro Pi, despre care vom vorbi astăzi, voi face eu o scurtă introducere în limba română, ca ulterior să trecem pe limba engleză. Nu vă faceți griji, dacă nu stăpâniți foarte bine limba engleză, resursele prezentate de Sam, o să vedeți, sunt disponibile și în limba română. Iar în cadrul acestui webinar puteți să interacționați cu noi în chat în limba română, iar eu îi voi traduce lui Sam orice întrebări veți avea pe parcurs. Organizația noastră, Asociația Techsoup, pentru cei care nu ne cunosc încă, este un centru de resurse de tehnologie și experiențe de învățare a tehnologiei pentru organizații non-profit, elevi și profesori. Principalele programe pe care le derulăm se împart în două direcții mari. Societate civilă, prin care oferim acces la produse software, soluții digitale și training pentru organizațiile non-profit din țară și Republica Moldova, și educație STEAM, motivul pentru care suntem astăzi aici. În cadrul Predau Viitor, construim împreună cu profesorii din preuniversitar o educație informatică bazată pe probleme reale și creație de produse, aplicată și transdisciplinară. Prin acest program conectăm profesorii de informatică și TIC și nu numai, și la ecosistemul IT din România și din lume. Îndreptare digital este un program foarte drag nouă, început în 2017, special pentru învățători și elevii lor, cu scopul de a-i iniția în crearea de activități de învățare facilitate de tehnologie. Pe parcurs s-au alăturat în program și profesorii de la liceele pedagogice și elevii lor, viitorii învățători. Dacă faceți parte deja din unul din aceste două programe, ne-ar bucura mult să ne lăsați un comentariu scurt în chat despre experiența dumneavoastră în program. Comunitatea Techsoup pentru educație, care cuprinde cele două programe, Predau Viitor și Îndreptare digital, a ajuns la peste 20.000 de profesori și ne bucurăm să vedem cum această comunitate crește zi de zi. Pe măsură ce am crescut, am realizat că este nevoie de o platformă care să ofere agregat cursurile noastre gratuite online pentru această comunitate. Și astfel am lansat anul trecut, în octombrie, platforma de cursuri Predau Viitor. Așadar, dacă nu faceți parte din comunitatea Techsoup pentru educație și încă nu aveți un cont pe Predau Viitor, platforma de cursuri, vă invităm cu drag să o faceți și să începeți să beneficiați de toate resursele și cursurile noastre online gratuite. Iar acum voi continua în limba engleză and I will invite on the stage Sam Duffy, Astro PI Programme Manager, to take over and tell you about all about the awesome Astro Pi Challenge and other resources for teachers from the Raspberry Pi Foundation. Sam, you now have the floor. I will stop my sharing and I will let you share your screen.
Thank you very much, Anna. It's really nice to have everyone join us today. I'm going to give you an overview of the Astro Pi programme, as Anna said. I'm going to detail on one of the challenges that I think will really interest you, which is currently open, Mission Zero, and there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end, so please do ask. Right, I'm going to share my screen now. Give me just 1 second. There we go. Okay. So, yes, actually, I'm just going to... Okay, yep, don't worry. Right, so I'm here to talk about the European Astro Pi Challenge. As you can see, it's actually made up of 2 challenges, one of which I'm going to talk to you about today. So what is the European Astro Pi Challenge? Well, it's a collaboration between the European Space Agency, ESA, and the Raspberry Pi Foundation. And the aim is to inspire young people to learn to write computer programs through 2 challenges, Mission Zero and Mission Space Lab. And it's for participants aged 19 or under, enrolled in a primary or secondary school in an ESA member country. Although, as you'll see later, the 2 challenges are aimed at slightly different age groups. So it really is your code in space. We work very closely with ESA, and through them, we have 2 Raspberry Pi computers, which are on the International Space Station. And we use the program to inspire young people to write computer programs which will run on those computers on the space station. So I'm going to dig into these now. So the first Astro Pi Challenge was overseen by the British ESA astronaut Tim Peake. And he took the very first Astro Pi, which you can see him holding in the picture, up to the International Space Station in his Principia mission in 2015. And that was when the very first challenge ran. It looked very different to the challenges we have now. We run it every year, and we've been able to continually refine and develop and change the programs. So these are the Astro Pis. There are 2 of the brand new Mark II Astro Pis actually on the International Space Station, tethered, as you can see, to the walls. They don't float around in microgravity. This new hardware arrived in December 2021, and each one is named after an inspirational European scientist. And actually, the Mission Zero participants for that year voted for the names. And so our infrared machine is named after Nikola Tesla, and our visible light machine is named after Marie Curie. We'll come on to what the difference between the 2 computers is in a minute. So these are the Astro Pis. They're look a little bit different to the kits that teams would get sent who take part in some of our challenges, because they're in a special aluminium flight case, which has been designed to survive the journey into space. The bits on the bottom are actually cooling fins, because the Raspberry Pi 4 inside can get a little bit warm. And you can see that on one side, there is a coloured LED display that has 64 bits that can be used to show a display. And that's what one of the challenges includes. And on the other side, it has a camera. And we actually put the camera in the window for Mission Space Lab, where teams can actually take pictures from the International Space Station down onto the Earth. So let's dive into Mission Zero, because this is actually open at the moment, but it closes next Friday. So you haven't got long to take part, but we would absolutely love it if some of you could do this with your classes before the end of the deadline. So Mission Zero is great for beginners to coding. It's for primary school level children, although anyone up to the age of 19 can take part. There's no prior knowledge required at all. So even if you aren't a coding expert and you don't teach computer science and nobody in your classroom has any experience yet, don't worry. We've got loads of resources which will help you work through the Mission Zero challenge with your class and submit. Everything is documented and taken care of. And it can be completed in an hour. You might want to have a look through some things first, just to make sure that you can get through it in an hour, but it's very easily completable in one classroom session. You can dive into it more deeply if you want to, though. All you need is a computer connected to the internet. So we have designed a Python emulator that runs the code in a web browser so that you don't have to have anything else set up. And what your participants will do is they will write a very simple program to take a reading from the color and luminosity sensor on the Astro Pi. So if we go back, the Astro Pi has lots of sensors built in. So there's a lot there that you can't see. So there is a accelerometer, there is a gyroscope, all sorts of sensors embedded within that flight unit. There's a temperature sensor, humidity, pressure. So during Mission Zero, we change it a little bit every year so that you use a different sensor. This year, it's the color and luminosity sensor. And this can tell what the colors are in the environment on the International Space Station. So participants will create a personalized image for the astronauts to see as they go about their daily tasks. And Mission Zero is very, very popular. Last year, we had nearly 17,000 programs submitted by nearly 26,000 young people. So lots of people love Mission Zero, and it's a great privilege to be able to work with it and offer it. So this year's theme is that we're asking young people to take a reading from the sensor and then design an image to remind the astronauts of home. And the theme this year is nature, so flora and fauna. And these are some lovely examples of images that participants last year sent to the ISS to describe, to show on that LED screen on the Astro Pi. So these are flowers and fruit and trees. And then we also have some people chose to do images of animals. So the fish at the bottom is my favorite. I quite like the squirrel as well. This is a great challenge because it helps young people understand how to program a bitmap and render an image. So there's lots of different skills that they'll pick up whilst having fun and putting their program together. So let's talk a little bit more. Eligibility, as I've already said, anybody aged 19 or younger at the time of submission can take part, but this is probably Mission Zero is ideal for primary school children who don't have any experience of coding yet. It's a great introduction. You can work individually or in a team of up to 4 young people can work together. So you could have 5 or 6 different teams in your classroom, for example. The participants need to be based in schools, code clubs, coder dojos, or households in ESA eligible countries. And they do need to be supervised by an adult mentor. So in this case, this would be you as the teacher. This is because all the communication with teams is via the adult mentor. And the way we do that is through a Raspberry Pi account. So the first step of the process would be for you to register for a Raspberry Pi account if you don't already have one. It's very quick and easy to do, and I'll show you a few screens a little bit later on. So another great thing is that every eligible team gets a digital certificate showing that they have taken part in Mission Zero, and it's signed by an astronaut. So this year I'm delighted that our certificates will be signed by ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti. She's a really inspirational female astronaut. Her Twitter and TikTok feeds are lovely, all about the challenges of living in space on the International Space Station. And you will also get with your certificate a map of exactly where the ISS was when your program ran, which is very exciting. It means it's unique to you and it's a piece of space history that you can keep. And these are generally generated around June, July time. So you might have to wait a little while to get your certificates, but they'll be distributed through your Raspberry Pi account. So Mission Zero closes on the 17th of March, don't forget. It will be running again next year from next September. So if you miss it this time, don't worry, you can come back, but not for a little while. So I would love to see some entries from Romania this time next week. So getting started, as I said, everything that you need can be found on the website. I've just put the link there. It's actually translated for all 20 ESA member country languages. So where possible on the following screens, I've tried to use the page translated into Romanian. And the way you do that is I put a little red circle on the top right-hand corner. There's a little drop-down arrow. You just select your language and then press the little right-facing arrow and it will re-render the page with your correct language. All of the online content related to Mission Zero is available in all of the participating countries' languages. So to get started, if you scroll down that first page, you'll find lots more information. There are links to check eligibility, just to make sure that everybody is able to take part. There's a link there to register for your Raspberry Pi account. It's very quick and easy to do. And once you've got it, you can use it for all future challenges. There's some videos on demonstrations of the luminosity sensor, things like that. And the timeline is on here as well. And there are some other key things. One of those buttons on that first page will have taken you to the official guidelines. Please read these carefully before you start. Submissions must follow these official guidelines to be run on the International Space Station. We just have some rules and guidance to keep entries nice around language and team names and things, and we do have to check those. So just any eligible submission will run on the ISS, but they've got to conform to the guidelines. So please, please, please do read these carefully just to make sure. So back to that first step, this icon on the website screen with a little computer monitor, if you click on that, it will take you to the screen you can see on the right-hand side and ask you to log into your Raspberry Pi account. If you don't have one yet, it says at the bottom, create one, just click that. We'll ask you a few questions about yourself just so that we can set up your account, and then you'll get a classroom code. Your classroom code will be 2 words with a hyphen. So something like, I don't know, cow-cat. That's your classroom code for anybody who submits with you in your classroom. And you need to make sure that your teams have that classroom code. You will be emailed it when you register, and you can check for it any time. It will show on your Raspberry Pi account, so it will always be there in case you forget. Your second step is then, so you've completed your registration as the teacher or adult mentor, the teams, your young people in the classroom, can now make their program. So if you click on the second button that was at the bottom of the website first page we say step-by-step guide, I've put the button translated on here. This is a Raspberry Pi Foundation project. We have lots and lots of projects to support all of the activities that the Raspberry Pi Foundation runs. This is a special one designed by our informal learning team for Mission Zero, and it's really great. All you need to do is just work through it step by step. It has tips for teachers as well as tips for the young people taking part. It also has the link to the starter code in the Python emulator that will open on your web browser. So everything you need is here. The Python editor looks like this. So when you get to the relevant part in the project, you'll see something that looks a bit like this. This is actually one of my entries. I wanted to make a flower. And you can submit and write your code all in this same one place. Once you have tested your code and run it and everything looks okay, you will be able to submit it in the same place. I'll show you in a minute. You can see a little pink button color. You'll be able to change that color button to mimic what the color and luminosity sensor would be doing on the International Space Station. So depending on the color that the Astro Pi can see in its environment, that will change the color background of your image. And we'll show you how to do that through the project. Okay, so once you've finished your program, the bottom half of that screen then looks like this. There are 4 tick boxes. So we just run some automatic checks to make sure that some of the things that need to be in the code are there. You need to make sure you get 4 ticks in each of those 4 boxes, and then you will be able to submit. So your team at this point need to put in your classroom code and choose a team name, and they will then be asked to follow through and answer a couple of questions. We would like them to enter their first names, just their first names. This is so we can print them on the certificate. And that should be then ready to go. If you have any problems, just email us using the email address on the website, which will probably come through to me or one of my team, and we'll get back to you straight away to help you. Now, once that's happened, if you are running this in a classroom, you might have 5 or 6 teams submitting, or you might have people in multiple sessions. That's fine. You can have as many people as you like, can use your classroom code. Every time somebody enters, you will get an email letting you know. and you will also be able to see them in your account. So this is my account. You can see I've got 3 teams with obviously my name, Space Sam, Astro Sam, and Sam Space. I can click on any of those teams. I can see who the team members are. If I need to change the spelling of one of the team names or anything like that, I can do it there. And you can also download the code if you want to check what your teams have submitted and just make sure that everything is okay and that none of the images might contravene any of the official guidelines. Okay, so that is then you ready to enter your submission and off you go. It's really as simple as that, and it's lots of fun. So just to remind you, it is closing soon. You must register and enter your team submissions by midnight on the 17th of March. That's next Friday. But Mission Zero will be back next year. Registrations will open in September. If you'd like updates on that, you can subscribe to the Astro Pi newsletter. There's a little subscription box at the bottom of every page on the Astro Pi website. You can pop your details in there. When the new program launches, you will get updates on that and on other things as we go throughout the year. You can also follow us on Twitter. We put all of our information on Twitter and let people know when new programs are launching or anything like that to do with Astro Pi. And we also, ESA Education, put lots of cool things up that we retweet as well. So if you are interested in all things space, it's a great account to follow. Okay. So just a little word, that's Mission Zero. I just wanted to talk to you briefly about Mission Space Lab. So this is our other challenge. It's a bit different to Mission Zero in that it's primarily aimed at secondary school children, but younger children are very welcome to take part and do. We do have many primary school teams take part. It's a little more involved. You have to work as a team. You can't enter as an individual for Mission Space Lab. So it needs to be a mentor and at least 2 young people. That team will work over the whole school year, so from September to July, to design a scientific experiment. So that experiment will then run on the Astro Pi computer on the International Space Station and collect data from those sensors. So it could be temperature readings, taking photos, all sorts of things. And again, there is lots of resources and guidance to support that, but I'm not going to go into that today just because this is currently closed because we have this year's cohort working on it right now. But it will be opening again in September 2023. And again, you can get updates through subscribing to the newsletter. And the link to the website pages for Mission Space Labs there as well, in case you want to have a little look around and see whether this is something you might like to do. Okay, so that's it. I have finished the formal part of the presentation. I hope that wasn't too quick for you. We will make the slides available afterwards so that you can peruse them at your leisure and pick up those website guides. So I'm going to stop presenting briefly and I can now take questions.
Yes, thank you, Sam. I do. So the first question, and I will leave the banner. Wait for yes. The first question would be: how many projects from the teams are actually going to space? How is the selection process?
So for Mission Zero, the only selection process is that you meet the official guidelines. So out of the nearly 17,000 entries that we had last year, I think we ran 16,500 of them. That's a lot of programs. It takes an awfully long time, and we test them and we do review them very thoroughly. So all of those 4 tick boxes on the submission page, we're testing for those things as well. So it's really important that you do read the official guidelines, just because we can't have obscene images flashing on the Astro Pi for the astronauts. We want them to only see nice things. So we promise our colleagues at ESA that we review that very carefully. So it really helps us out if teachers can just make sure that they're keeping an eye on what their teams are doing. Young people can be very creative and sometimes in a naughty way.
Yes, I think our teachers know that, and we also know that. Okay, so basically they just have to submit until the deadline, the 17th. You said the deadline. One more question. I think I saw. So The deadline, you talked about also the all the resources available, and they can submit next year if they can't do it this year. But you said it's just 1 hour, right? Someone
Yes.
was asking.
You can make it take longer. So although we say make an image, the program will actually run for 30 seconds. You could do a little cartoon. So if you're feeling really involved and want to do a bit more and you have a bit more time, you could actually do a series of images. And there are hints in the project on how to do that. So you can actually have a series of images running over 30 seconds to make an animation. And when we see really cool things, we sometimes tweet them. So if you do a really cool, lovely animation, so you maybe don't just want to do a picture of a squirrel, you want to do a squirrel scampering across the screen. Even with just 64 bits, we see some absolutely amazing creative things that children have done. So there really is no limit. You can do it in an hour. You can just do an image. In the starter project, we actually provide some example animals for you. So you could just copy and paste those in and change the color and make sure that the background changes and things. But why not do something different, or animate it, or have the trees flowering, or there's actually quite a lot you can do.
Awesome. I would have loved to be a pupil and apply with my teacher. Unfortunately, I'm not anymore.
Well, if you have a niece or a nephew, you could do it with them. Households can apply. So it's not just schools, it's running in scout groups, coder dojos, individual households. Mission Zero used to be a team-only event, but because of social distancing and COVID, we actually made it possible for individuals to enter with an adult mentor during that period. And we've kept that. It was very, very popular. So individual young people can take part with a mentor as well as teams. So yes, find a willing niece or nephew. You can have a go as well.
Yes. So children, and could you repeat the age? You said how old should?
Well, anyone up to the age of 19 can take part, and that's because text-based coding is introduced at different parts of the curriculum in different countries. So some countries don't move from block-based coding like Scratch to text-based coding until much later. So that's why we allow anybody to enter Mission Zero up to the age of 19. But it really is more appropriate for primary school beginners to code rather than older children. But there's no limit. So as long as they are age 19 or under, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. One question, so you said about computers, you can run all the steps on computers. How about tablets? Does it work on tablets or?
I think it works less well on tablets. We're not recommending. I think a desktop is better. Any desktop though, it doesn't matter whether it's Mac or Windows or. But I don't think it's supported on a tablet, so it just might not render very well. You can try, but I don't think we can help if it doesn't work very well.
And I think they can also work in a team at a desktop. So if there are 2 or 3 children, they can work at one desktop if they're.
Yes, so one thing to bear in mind, so the Python emulator is new this year. We used to do it on a third-party software called Trinket. This is the first year that we've used our own in-house emulator, so we're very pleased and hope to develop it to be able to do more. You'll see it popping up in other Raspberry Pi Foundation projects. At the moment, you can't save your work and come back to it, so you do have to complete it in one session. Otherwise, you have to save your code in a text document somewhere on your computer and then put it back into the starter project when you come back. So it's really important to know that you can finish your session in that one go. We are working on that. We hope next year that we'll be able to allow people to save their work. But obviously, because it's the first year we've had it out, we're gathering lots of feedback on things to improve.
Mm-hmm. One more question. Someone asked on another platform, should I be a computer science teacher, or is this?
No, absolutely not. And actually, we would love for it to be really widely used. I'm not a coder by background at all, and I can do it. You really don't. The starter project is lovely to work through. It's very, very self-explanatory. And actually, the good thing about learning to do this with your children or your classroom is them seeing you actually having to work things out yourself, because that is how coding works, right? So when we have facilitators doing live demos and sessions, we say, don't worry if it goes wrong. Actually, it really helps children to say, oh, that happened, or I got that error message. I'll just Google that, because that's what they need to be doing. So I would say you don't need to be a computer scientist to run this and have lots of fun in the classroom with it. Don't worry if something happens and you don't know, Google it with them, get them to see how you're fixing it. If you get really stuck, give us drop us a line on the at our inbox. We review it regularly, so you'll get a reply very, very quickly, especially with the deadline being a week away. We're looking at it more than several times a day, so you will get help.
So yes, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any more questions, but anyway, this was a nice and short webinar just to tell our teachers about the challenge, and that it will be also the next year, and also to tell them about your resources, or your all awesome resources, to go and check them out on the
Yes.
Raspberry Pi.
So the website has absolutely tons of resources for both projects, and as well as sections for Mission Zero and Mission Space Lab. There are sections about the Astro Pis and showing you more about the sensors, lots more information about what's happening. So there's loads of links to ESA videos, all sorts of things. So the website is definitely the gateway to get all the information that you need.
Thank you. One more question just popped up.
Yeah.
What are the most common errors that made the projects to be rejected, so we can avoid them? So thank you, Mihaela, for that question.
Yep, they're all in the official guidelines. It's mainly don't send us a rude picture. We've actually had to write machine learning programs to detect rude pictures, which is quite an alarming process. And yes, try and avoid a team name. There are rules on the team names that it doesn't use any non-numerical and letter characters, because that can cause problems with putting the payload together to upload it to the International Space Station. And keep your team name clean as well. No naughty words in your team name. Because we have to put all of those programs together, test them really thoroughly and check them all. And then we send them to ESA to be what they call uplinked to the ISS. So anything that falls foul of anything in the official guidelines will unfortunately not run. But they're all laid out, and actually that official guidelines page is deliberately very blank. It's just black and white, so you can print it and use it in the classroom if you want to, and everything is on there. So there's no hidden rules, there's no hidden things it will fail for, as long as it doesn't have anything naughty in it, and all the 4 green boxes have been ticked when you press submit. You won't be able to submit till you get those anyway. Then it will go. There is a profanity checker in that submission, so you won't get all 3 ticks if you've got a rude word somewhere in your code anyway. But we can't pick up everything in 20+ languages, so that's why we have to do some reviews afterwards. But you will know. So we will let people know through their Raspberry Pi Mission Hub. When we finish that review, we will send you an email saying check your hub, and it will tell you which teams have got flight status, and if any haven't, it will tell you then. So you will know before they run whether any of them have encountered a problem. So
some projects will have takeoff, and I wanted to do a joke with takeoff and
yeah, I mean, sometimes people say, why couldn't you change it for us? And but the thing is, we have 17,000 entries. We are a small team, so there are only at Raspberry Pi Foundation 3 people working full-time on Astro Pi, and we are doing all of that with some help from across the foundation from time to time, but largely it's just us. So whilst we would love to be able to change it for people, we unfortunately just can't. The volume is just too high. We have a very quick turnaround to get this. It might seem on the timeline like a big gap between it closing and then us deploying it, but we have to review all 17,000 programs and get them ready and onto the ISS in that time. So that's why it's a little bit of a wait. People get a bit impatient. We get a lot of emails saying, when's it going to run? So yeah, be patient, because it takes an awful lot of work to do that, and then create all the certificates afterwards takes quite a lot of time as well.
So the good news, I see teachers that say they will apply, they will go to their students, their pupils, and do the challenge. So you will have work from Romania too, more work from Romania too.
I hope so, and I'm checking the numbers every day, so I'll be able to see them as soon as you submit. I'll know. So I'm watching now. I'd love to see some entries from Romania. So please do. There are some entries already, but I'd love to see some more. So yes, get them in. It'd be great.
Thank you so much for this live, for this webinar. All the teachers that are present will have this recording, and many more teachers will see the recording. So thank you again. And after maybe you say some closing words, I will also do a closing in Romanian, just to be.
Okay. Yep. I mean, no closing words. Just please do enter. It's a great thing. It's free. It's space. I mean, what's not to like? It's great, right? And it's a great introduction to coding. And if you're not a computer science teacher, hopefully it will give you some confidence as well. It might be the first time you've seen Python too. There are then loads more Raspberry Pi Foundation projects. And once you've got that Raspberry Pi account, you can do any of them, and that account stays live every year as well, so you only have to register the once and the whole world of stuff is open. So good luck.
Thank you. Mulțumim încă o dată tuturor care ne-au urmărit. Aveți toți pașii, așa cum zicea Sam, și în limba română. O să aveți înregistrarea aceasta, urmăriți pașii încă o dată și abia așteptăm să vedem cât mai multe echipe din România de elevi care aplică la această super provocare până pe 17 martie. Mulțumim mult încă o dată pentru prezență și ne revedem cu următoarea ocazie. Stați cu un ochi pe resursele noastre pentru profesori și pentru organizații non-profit. Seară bună! La revedere!